The Marvel Cinematic Universe is arguably one of the best franchises in the world right now, and that is thanks to many reasons, such as the incredible CGI.
This was fun!
With really strong writing that stays consistent to the story that it's trying to tell.
I would never hurt anyone. I'm not a monster.
And of course, it's epic characters that are timeless and always a joy to watch.
But they still wanna know we're making it. Talking like a barbecue, but you don't.
He almost tasted that. Num, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up.
Okay, fine. The fourth phase of the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't nearly as good as the phases that have come before, and I think everyone pretty much agrees with that. So in summary, it sucks. But why does it suck? Let's talk about it. What's up guys, welcome to That Freaking Geek, and today's video is brought to you by My Family Cinema. And what is My Family Cinema, you ask? Well, My Family Cinema is a personal media player that automatically collects, organizes, and updates the latest news from the film industry, such as the latest movie releases, popular series, and the biographies of your favorite stars. By adding your cloud to the platform, you'll find everything organized by genre, theme, awards, and many other categories to start watching all your favorite content with the best quality, without ads, and whenever you want to for your convenience. I've been recently watching the Game of Thrones spin-off series House of the Dragon off of this app, and it has been awesome to watch. My Family Cinema has a variety of affordable subscription prices, but you can also try it for 7 days, then you can see for yourself how great the service is. Check out the link in the description. Thanks so much to My Family Cinema for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into it. I think that there are 3 main reasons why the MCU Phase 4 kinda sucks. Let's go off with the first one. I feel like we're experiencing a bit of whiplash because the MCU is attempting to go back to basics with its stories. By the end of Phase 3, we were riding a bit of a high. And what I mean by that is that the characters were so well established by this point, and there were some stories that were finally starting to, pay off. But now I feel like that we're kind of getting to a space where we doesn't feel like we're building towards anything. And those kind of high moments, we're craving for more of that. And I think Phase 3 did such a good job at building towards those moments in Infinity War and Endgame. And we want more of that. And I think they did such a great job. And I think they're looking to recreate that again in Phase 4, 5, and 6. Except before we had Phase 1, which was teasing Avengers, was building up towards Avengers. And then Phase 2, Avengers 2. And then Phase 3, we finally started to get a bigger picture with Thanos being the ultimate bad guy and the kind of glue that stuck it all together with the Infinity Stones. But now with this new Phase 4, yes, the multiverse is kind of that new glue, but there's been so many different villains that have been teased in this phase. And so ultimately, the multiverse and these new villains don't really do justice to this phase as well as the previous phases. I'm sure these hints are going to pay off come the end of Phase 6. Unfortunately, it's just not helping out Phase 4 at the moment. And while the end of Phase 1 had the incredible Avengers, this is ending with the Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever, which is not nearly as exciting as Avengers. Instead, it feels like it's ending with just another Phase 4 Marvel movie. And that brings me to my next main point about why I think that Phase 4 ultimately sucks. I think that the Phase 4 movies are very average Marvel movies. MCU movies that introduce new characters or tell more contained stories can be really, really good. I even found some of them in my top 10 list. However, within Phase 4 that are doing similar things, I don't even find them in my top 15. Take Winter Soldier for example. That was a great example of a movie done well with a more contained story whilst introducing new characters. You had Bucky, who was an anti-hero who was being manipulated by evil to do the evil things that he was doing. And then of course we got Falcon, and he was introduced so well. Both of those characters were quite pivotal to the story, but that it still felt like a Captain America story here. It still felt like it was Steve Rogers' movie. But then you get Multiverse of Madness. This is meant to be Doctor Strange's second movie, But what ended up happening was the movie took a lot of time trying to basically make Wanda look like this evil character and kind of justify her evil deeds. And you also throw in America Chavez and you get a very complicated movie that didn't really have a lot of time for Doctor Strange, kind of leaving him in the dust. Also while trying to do these character arcs for these characters who Wanda didn't end up too well, and America Chavez had one of the most generic story arcs. Another example would be The Eternals, which I actually kind of enjoyed more than most people did, but in comparison to Guardians of the Galaxy, I think it failed a little bit. In Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn did a fantastic job at establishing these characters that were quite unknown before into kind of the huge mainstream, because everyone knows the Guardians of the Galaxy now. The Eternals, I don't think was successful. Instead, it felt a lot more forced in the introduction, and because of that, none of them had the kind of attention that they deserved to kind of flesh out each of their characters. And what ended up happening is that because of the amount of characters as well, it ended up a lot more flat compared to Guardians of the Galaxy. Sure, there's been some good movies within Phase 4, such as Shang-Chi and No Way Home, but they are not nearly as good as the incredible movies that have come from previous phases. Then of course you get what a lot of people consider the biggest dud of Phase 4, and that is Thor: Love and Thunder. That movie feels cheap, and a lot of people think that it doesn't take itself very seriously. It's kind of a joke. However, I do think that in general it's kind of a very much contained story, and so it's very disconnected in terms of trying to tell a bigger story here. But what it does kind of feed into this idea of that the quality within Phase 4 movies are not nearly as good. Talking about disconnection, that brings me to my third and probably my main point about why I think that the Phase 4 sucks. And that is because of the Disney Plus series. I think that just causes even more disconnection. Taking the quality of the MC movies and forcing them into a TV series format is something that I was actually quite excited about, because I thought it would allow for characters to have more time to be fleshed out. But instead what ended up happening here was that they kind of took these series and actually really wanted them to be, kind of breaking the MCU with the stories, and at the same time also have things that set up the movies to come. Except what ended up happening was that the series ended up confusing the MCU Phase 4 even more. And I say that because some of them kind of were built up to build up to a movie that didn't need a build up to a movie in the first place. Or in some cases, they didn't even take most of what happened within the series and applied it to the movie that they were making. Loki, for example, was meant to be this series that sets up as to why exactly the multiverse is open up the way that it is now. It was meant to do a lot of the expedition to explain how the multiverse works. And in it, by the end, we kind of got our first look at Kang, which was really cool, and it kind of allowed us to understand, hey, this is how the multiverse is now being opened up. However, come No Way Home, it told its own explanation about why the multiverse was kind of exploding at that moment. And so there was no connectivity between the two. Kevin Feige did say in an interview, hey, this is Loki kind of explains the reasons why No Way Home was able to happen. But not a lot of people must have saw that. And so what ended up happening here was a very one-off kind of side story that was meant to be this huge thing about the MCU, but ultimately meant nothing in the next movie afterwards, which was No Way Home. So it was very confusing about why those two movies felt like it needed to be connected. WandaVision was a series that was meant to set up Multiverse of Madness, but what ended up happening here was that within WandaVision, she kind of does a bunch of evil stuff, and that would have been a good kind of setup for Multiverse of Madness. But in the series, it kind of ends with her with kind of a redemptive arc that she kind of sees her evil ways. But then in the Multiverse of Madness, she just goes straight back to those evil ways as if she didn't have that redemptive arc in the WandaVision series. And so you're kind of asking yourself, did the two projects, did the guys who are organizing them even read each other's scripts? Because it feels like it was just kind of the same repeated story arc twice, both for the series and then again for the movie. And then also, if you went into the movie and never watched the series, you'd be wondering, who the heck are these kids? Why is Wanda going after these kids? You've never met them before unless you watched the series. But then if you watch the series itself, you're like, hey, where's Vision? He was still in it by the end of WandaVision. And so, just very disconnected. But where I found this series most disconnected is that I think it's disconnected from the MCU's quality. It's not nearly as good. Let's look at Falcon and Winter Soldier. That series is good, but compared to the Captain America movies, they are very poor in comparison. Then of course you get She-Hulk, which has terrible writing. And I know it's meant to be a sitcom, but I know of many sitcoms that have really good writing and funny at the same time. So I'm not exactly sure what happened to that quality. Then of course you get, Miss Marvel and Moon Knight, and those are decent series, but we're not sure how those kind of pan out, and so we have to see, like for example, the Marvels, where it's going there. And then lastly we have Hawkeye, which was okay, not great, and those kind of set up Echo, which is I'm very disinterested in, and it maybe sets up kind of Daredevil. But if Hawkeye is kind of the base of what the series can look like, I'm a little bit worried about Daredevil going forward, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And that is it. I am worried about the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if Phase 4 is a taste of what is to come, I don't want it. If we look back after watching all the phases that are to come, we'll probably start to see all the payoffs, and we'll start to see all the hints, and we'll appreciate Phase 4 a little bit more. But at the moment, Phase 4 is not doing any good to Phase 4. Unfortunately, Marvel's attempt to go back to basics isn't working as well as they might have thought. And what they're trying to do here is they're trying to take the multiverse saga and take it to the next level, even bigger than Infinity Saga. And so what they're trying to do is that have so many different other moments to kind of build towards an even bigger conclusion. But what ends up happening here is that it's quantity over quality, feeling like everything is disconnected. And of course, like I was saying, the quality just isn't nearly as good as what has come before. But that's it from me. I would love to know your thoughts. Like, what do you think is the main reason? Is there maybe a reason that I left out? Or maybe you actually think it was pretty great of a phase? Let me know. I'd love to know in the comments. But thanks so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It'll be an absolute honor to have you. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.